Vai começar.
Remember, the first thing we're going to do is a round of introductions. Everyone will get a chance to say their name and the pronoun that they use, like he or she, and your instrument and your band and where you're calling from.
Acho que agora tem 3.000.
Tem, Ive. Tem 3 tu.
So we did go live. I thought it would have a disclaimer thing or like a thing up, but I guess the way they set it up now, it's just right to it. So if you guys want to hang tight or start intros whenever you're ready, we are.
Great.
Good.
So we are live.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, welcome anyone who is watching or a participant. We're so glad you're here. And this is the HONK panel on Brazil, HONK in Brazil, community and activism. We're talking about South America's largest country, where the HONK movement has really exploded in recent years, with multiple festivals and many, many new bands, in addition to an evolving political situation which has challenged those bands to respond. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves to everybody. My name is Phil, and I use the pronouns he and him. I play trombone and trumpet in Rude Mechanical Orchestra, Funk Rust Brass Band, and I'm the host of the Street Brass Podcast, and I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York. So let's go around, beginning with Eve.
Hi, I'm Eve. I'm from HONK Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. I play the trumpet in the bands Calango Careta and Maluvidas. I use the pronouns she and her.
Great. Let's hear from Rocio.
Hi everybody, I'm Rocio. I'm here representing HONK Sao Paulo. I play in Unidos do Swing and I play sax soprano. And I use the pronoun she or her.
Great. And Juba?
Hi everybody, I'm Juba. I'm from HONK Rio, and I play trombone and saxophone in Siderais, Bloco do HONK, Labirintos Públicos, and Bloco das Tubas. These brass bands. I use the pronoun he, his, him.
Great, thanks. Let's go over to Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. I'm from Porto Alegre. My English is not that good. So I'll mix English and Portuguese. Thanks, João Marcos. You are here to help us. I play the trumpet on Bate Sopra and Cosmo Bloco. I use the pronouns she and her. That's it.
Great. And we want to welcome our translator, Zhao, who I think is joining us from Somerville or Boston?
Somerville.
Great. Great. So we want to open things up by allowing everybody just a chance to tell us a little bit about your band. When did you get started, and what sort of music do you play? And so we'll go in, let's say, backwards order, and begin with Amanda. Tell us about your band.
Ok. Eu toco trompete na Bate Sopra, que existe ali desde 2015, mais ou menos.
I play trumpet in Bate Soba that exists since 2015.
E eu entrei na banda no final de 2017.
I joined the band in the end of 2017.
Em momento onde a gente tocava bastante música cover.
In a moment that we play a lot of cover music.
mas a banda proporcionou um crescimento musical individual, o que mostrou um crescimento do coletivo.
But the band presented individual development that became a development of the collective.
E atualmente a gente está produzindo músicas autorais com um pequeno show de 40 minutos, meia hora, 40 minutos autoral.
Currently, we're producing autoral music with small presentations of 30 to 45 minutes.
A gente mistura um pouco os ritmos brasileiros com bastante referência do jazz norte-americano.
We blend Brazilian rhythms with a lot of references of American jazz.
E bastante referência também dos países da América do Sul, como Argentina e Uruguai.
And several references from South American countries as Argentina and Uruguay.
Nós estamos nas redes sociais, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, e vai ser um prazer vê-los por ali.
We are in social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it would be a pleasure to see you all there.
Cosmobloco nasceu em 2018.
Cosmobloco was born in 2018.
Como um projeto de conclusão do curso de graduação de música do Martin.
As a senior thesis or a senior project of undergrad from Martin.
E a ideia principal é ser um espetáculo musical.
The main idea is to be a musical spectacle.
Com referências do teatro, da música erudita, da música eletrônica.
With references of theater, classical music, electronic music.
Onde os músicos atuam e os performers fazem música.
Where the musicians perform, act, and the performers make music.
E a ideia é levar vocês para uma viagem pelas galáxias e os seres galácticos.
And the idea is to bring you to a journey into the galaxies and galactic beings.
Também estamos nas redes sociais, principalmente no Instagram.
We are also in social media, especially Instagram.
E estamos prontos, venham nos buscar.
We are ready. Please pick us.
That's it.
Great, thank you. So, Juba, you want to tell us about Os Siderais and your other projects?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Phil. As I have 4 brass bands. The oldest one is Os Siderais. It was the first brass band from Brazil, South America, to go to HONK in 2013. And we started at 2009, and we are a brass band of groove rock and psychedelic and fusion with clowns and a lot of different things. In fact, punk and jazz and funk and Afrobeat and Balkan music, a lot of things, different things, experimental music. And we have always the target to be in the street making the social and political things. And we think that the music and the art is a way to change the reality to better. So we always have this thing in Siderais. And we are one of precursors of the neo-fanfarism movement. And then we came back with HONK Rio, the HONK to start HONK Rio here. The other brass band, we also had been in HONK Texas after the 2013. In 2013 we was in HONK Boston, Providence, and New York. In 2017, my Champion invited us to Texas, and we was there too. Always great, incredible, and we are forever grateful to all of you. And so I now talk about the other 3 bands. The other one, Bloco do HONK, we started some years ago. It's like a big brass band to tribute to all the HONK brass bands and the neofanfarrismo band. So this is the way we do this band, this big band that it's a tribute to other bands. And this o bloco do HONK, o Blanc, nickname Blanc. Also, it's a brass band that always play just for social and political things and helping the festival too. This I think is the only one that we have just for political things. And the other two, one is Bloco das Tubas, that is a brass band just of tubas, sousaphone, and percussion, snare, and drum. And we play groove and rock and roll, like 10 or 10 sousaphones, or sometimes more, sometimes less. Then the last one is Labirintos Públicos. That's a new project that we create to make tribute to tropicalismo. Tropicalismo is I think that's the most important movement of our history in Brazil, to me, because they change all the parameters, the kind of music. They create a lot of things, and they shock the society. They create fusions. That time 68, 67 with rock, jazz, samba, baião, forró, groove, anything. It's also, there's a lot of things with Siderais too, that about the anthropophagy movement. That is, in Brazil, we had Semana da Arte Moderna in 1930, that the artists talk about the anthropophagy as a movement to take old things, folkloric and popular culture, and resignification of this.
Resignify or remaining, mini making processes.
Right. Thanks, John. Perfect. Take this kind of other kind of arts to mixing with new things, and so regional thing with universal, international things, mixing everything like this. So it's something that we had in Tropicalismo, and also in Labirintos Públicos, and also in Siderais, and also in the movement Neofanfarrismo that we all are together. I think it's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Juba. I would definitely want to get into what the very interesting musical collision of HONK, the HONK community spirit, with the very deep folk traditions and different types of rhythms that exist in Brazil. But first, we want to ask Eve about your bands. At least there's two that I know of, Calango Careta and Malavidas. Would you like to introduce those projects to the listeners? I believe, Eve, you're still muted.
Oops. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so Calango Careta is this amazing performing group that is mostly based on circus performance. You know, we play a lot of cultural popular rhythms. We have outros music as well. We have an allegory, like a gigantic calango, which is a lizard. It's a Brazilian lizard, calango, figure that is carried above the band. And and what I think makes calango special, besides its style of performance, is the flute section. We have a big flute section, our little birds, that makes our sounds very distinct. And the Malavidas are an all-female band with a feminist approach. We only play female composed or performed music. The band started when some of us, female players from distinct groups, gathered and started to discuss and digress about how female musicians are treated and positioned in mixed collectives. So with that, and also with the willing to start being more political as advocates for women's rights, we started Malavidas. And I don't know, I think it's magical to play with them. Something amazing happens whenever a group of women play together. That's it.
Great, thank you. And Rocio, do you want to tell us about Unidos to Swing and your other projects? I can barely keep track of them.
Today I'm gonna talk a little bit about Unidos do Swing. Unidos do Swing is a brass band that started with musicians and dancers and buskers that they wanted to mix up Brazilian music with traditional jazz. And it started with, I don't know, like 10 or 15 people. And then it started to grow. And one of the moments that it was really important in our group was the moment that we realized that we had to rehearsal every Tuesday. And we started to do open rehearsals under the Museum of Art in Sao Paulo. So I think that one of the things that makes Unidos special is that if you are in a Tuesday night in Sao Paulo, you have a place where you can go and watch a full brass band with 30 people playing on the streets, and it's an open space to jam and play together. So I think we went to United States. We participate from HONK Somerville and HONK New York and Bronx, and it has been a lot of inspiration for us. And you can follow us. It's Unidos do Swing. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We have some new creations that they are coming, so it's interesting to follow us right now.
Great, and my next question is going to also be for Rocio. How did the honk movement begin in Brazil? How did it first get started, and then how did it spread? And when you're ready to finish that question, I invite the others to join in and talk about how the honk in their city got started.
Okay. First, I'm going to say that as it didn't start it in Sao Paulo, I think that maybe it's better to answer that question, Juba, that he's from Rio, and it was the city where started the honk in Brazil. But what I can say is that every honk starts because someone goes to another honk, basically. Basically, everybody here went to another honk, or our friend went to another honk in other place, and they come back and they say, "Whoa, that's amazing, we should do that. It's amazing, it's transforming and everything." But I think that maybe it's better if Rio de Janeiro speaks right now, because we were the second honk in Brazil.
Thank you, Hasio. Yes, we started in Honky Rio. The first was in 2015. As I told you before, it was because Os Siderais, we went in 2013 in Honk Boston and Bronx in New York Honk. So we stay like 2 years producing. So I was doing meetings with Trudy, with Kate. Kate is not more in USA, I know. And Mike from EE was very important to we did the first here because we stay all the time trying to figure out when we could start to really happen here the first honk here. It's nice to say that before honks start here, we already has a movement of brass band in here that we call neofanfarrismo. And it was like just less than 10 brass bands, I think. In other cities, we just knew one or two in São Paulo, one or two in another city. It was very few brass bands that we could find around. And then when we start the first honky hill here, in the first, we already start 5 brass band to play in the honk, and each year we see coming more brass band starting to play too. The people from São Paulo was coming since the first one, and the first one came Oncolo, and the second already Unidos do Swing came, and so they start after making a lot of exchanging with to see how we can do together and everything, and they start their own honk there, totally great. So some years after, then start Brasilia, and last year start the 2 last ones from Porto Alegre and Belo Horizonte. They can talk about the honks there.
Yes, let's throw it over to Eve. What can you tell us about how Honk Brasilia began?
Microfone fechado.
And Eve,
I'm gonna do this every time. I'm sorry. Okay, so I was just saying that it's exactly how Rustia said. You know, like some people in Calango Careta attended the first Honk Rio in 2015 as an audience members, and we started playing as a feature band in 2016. Yes, yeah. In 2017, some of us, after the final parade, we got together in a bar and we said, like, with all this excitement in our bodies, we were like, man, we have to bring the movement to Brasilia. And so we started organizing what became Honk Brasilia 2018. And I think besides Carnaval, which is like the most important event in all Brazilian bands' schedule, it's very rare to see something of that caliber being done in the streets of Brasilia. Free-for-all event with no governmental ties, with absolutely no sponsorship, played only on the streets, with no sort of structure built. For the people, it's like a second Carnival. And when we say Carnival, obviously we have a lot of fun in Carnival. But for us as a community of bands, it's important in different aspects. You know, so not only the entertainment aspect. So people gratefully started going along with it, they bought it, and they started to expect it every year, even though COVID didn't help very much this year. But there's that. I think that Honk Brasilia somehow opened doors for honk in other cities different from Rio São Paulo axis, you know, to exist. It was already bound to happen in any other city, but we're very proud of that. That's it.
Great, thank you. And Amanda, how did honk come to Porto Alegre?
Eu gostaria de começar a contar como chegou em Porto Alegre, assinalando uma coisa muito importante sobre o Brasil.
I'd like to start to explain why honk arrived in Porto Alegre, stressing something that is very important in Brazil, about Brazil.
O Brasil é um país muito grande e muito diverso. Então, qualquer manifestação cultural ela tem características muito diferentes dependendo da região em que ela acontece.
Brazil is a very large and vast country, so any cultural manifestation will have very different aspects and features depending on where it does happen.
Porto Alegre é a capital do último estado do Brasil,
Porto Alegre is the capital of the last state of Brazil,
no sul do Brasil.
in the south.
Começou do mesmo jeito que Brasília e São Paulo, que é com esse contato do que foi o HONK no Rio de Janeiro.
It began the same way as Brasilia and São Paulo by the contact with the HONK in Rio de Janeiro.
Mas em Porto Alegre acontece um movimento da rua que eu acredito que seja muito por conta das diferenças entre as estações que são muito marcadas.
But in Porto Alegre happens a movement on the streets that is well derived, I believe to be derived from the different of the seasons that are very marked here in Porto Alegre.
Um verão muito quente, um inverno muito rigoroso, as estações de chuva chove muito na cidade.
Very hot summer, rigorous winter, and it rains a lot in the city during the seasons of rain.
Isso ajudou bastante com que a cultura de rua de Porto Alegre se estabelecesse para além do HONK, para além do carnaval.
This helped a lot to Porto Alegre street culture to establish beyond HONK to beyond carnival.
Então, muito mais do que apresentar o HONK para a cidade ou as bandas para a cidade, a gente teve muita vontade de apresentar a cidade e essa relação que a gente tem com a rua para as pessoas que não são dali.
So way more than like presenting the HONK to the city was to present the city to the HONK and to the relations that people have among the city itself.
E isso só foi possível porque a gente teve um envolvimento muito grande de muitas organizações sociais, comunidades, bandas, blocos de carnaval, manifestações artísticas diversas, de circo, de poesia, de escrita.
And this was only possible because we have a lot of support of social organizations, communities, bands, circus, writing communities, and so goes on.
Então, eu acho que o HONK, ele começou em Porto Alegre e ele continua existindo na cidade para além dos 3 ou 4 dias de festival.
So HONK began in Porto Alegre and continues to exist in the cities beyond the 4 or 3 days of carnival.
Por causa dessa troca com quem chegou na cidade e da cidade com ela mesma.
Because of this exchange of who arrive in the city and the city among itself.
É isso.
It's that.
Great, thank you. The both of you brought up something I really would like to get into, because coming from an American perspective where there's not a lot of cities that have this tradition of a giant musical free public festival that lots of people get involved in outside of Mardi Gras in New Orleans, where you all have Carnival, which has some similarities with HONK. It's in the street, it's free. People who are not professionals can be in the bands and participate. What makes HONK in Brazil in general, or maybe HONK in your city, different than the carnival that also happens there? What does it provide to the audience or to the performers that makes it special? And maybe we can start with Eve and then go down to Juba. But first you have to unmute yourself.
I can start.
I just
Nice.
now realized myself. Okay, so in order to explain like what's unique about HONK in Brasilia, we have to explain what's unique about Brasilia. Because Brasilia is a complete different city than every other Brazilian city, I guess. It is only 60 years old, and it was planned specifically to be the capital and political center of Brazil. So for a long, long time, these bureaucratic activities were the ones who were mostly developed here. So people only came here to work on political offices and public service. And it's mostly like built to be crossed by car. So there's barely that city feeling of people on the streets, you know, getting out of their jobs, and it's very different. Everything is sectorized. There's a hotel sector, entertainment sector, everything. There's a sector for everything. So it's all compartmentalized. And now that the first generations of people generally from Brasilia are growing up, we're starting to see some changes, some people fighting back this status. And this is starting on our Carnaval. Carnaval is like a movement in all Brazil, but Brasilia for a long time was known of not having like a very interesting Carnival celebration. And now it's changing. And our movement, it's like getting a ride on that Carnival movement. It's a different thing, but it's not separated, because it's Carnival is also a political movement, and we of people on the streets, and people being in the streets, occupying the streets, is already a political thing. So we are like feeding from that excitement of having a Carnival now, you know, like from 5 years to now, I guess, a little bit more. So that's it. The way the city is built is like already very unique characteristics, especially for Brasilia citizens. And the other thing, history lesson, a little bit of history. People from all over Brazil came to work here. And the people who were not like the elite, the rich people, so the workers who actually built the city started living around the main center, which became what we call satellite cities. I think for you to understand better this formation, this geographical formation, it is similar to the roads, I guess. So because of this melting pot, it is important to point the way that we embrace popular Brazilian rhythms in the repertoires. And along with that, our close dialogue with folkloric movements, such as Bumba Meu Boi and Maracatu, which are Northeastern Brazil movements. And we have a lot of people here from the Northeast region. And how we tried our best to dialogue with these satellite cities. You know, this is like what makes our HONK different, I guess. Respecting their culture, trading cultural information with them, and getting people in bands from other cities. Just like Amanda pointed, I mean, how can people from other places in Brazil know the real Brasilia, you know? To learn that there is more to Brasilia than the only the center and the main street, the mall, you know, that is shown in the news. I think that's what makes different, because Brasilia is a very different city.
Great. And I have to imagine the situation is very different in Rio, which is known for its huge carnival celebrations. So, Juba, what would you say the difference between HONK and Carnival in your city is, and in what ways are they similar? Do they inform each other?
This is a new question, right? It was not, but okay, let's go. I think it's very important to see that Carnival has something political too, and it brings a thing of the end of hierarchy, and time to move everything in their mind, the mind of everybody. So it's real that has some political things in Carnival, but also in Carnival in our works too. I mean, as musicians, as artists, we have a very subtle border threshold between the art to political to change the reality, and the art to make just funny and people stay more alienado, alienated,
Alienated.
alienated. Thank you, John. John. So it's very dangerous when we don't know, we are not have not the conscience people about these two ways to be uh, playing music in the streets, because playing music in the streets is very important, right? But also if you are a lot of people just dancing, making trash, be, beside poor people sleeping. Uh, so there is sometimes very hard to deal with when we are in the streets, and also to see a lot of people that play music in the streets and don't have this kind of conscience. So uh, between Carnival and Honk, I think Honk has more this kind of conscientization of people to be in the street and use your art, use your music to change the social and political things. Uh, so it's turns Honk very more special and important as to me than Carnival because of this. As also Carnival is very important because it's very popular and it's very big here in Rio de Janeiro. It's very big. Rio de Janeiro is one of the cities that there's always people in the street, right? All the year, people love to be in the street. So this is something that makes special the our work to play in the streets with uh, bringing and searching the this kind of social and political, ecological things uh, through through and together to with everybody, every kind of people in the street. I think it's the biggest difference of the both things.
Great, thank you. For anyone who watched either the videos that Unidos to Swing made or watched the presentation that Honk Sao Paulo did at the sort of beginning of our this week of Honk, they would see that Unidos to Swing leads a huge parade with many people following, and it's not just the band is gigantic, and there's people on stilts and many dancers. So I would sort of ask you a similar question, Rocio. What's the relationship in your mind between Honk, Sao Paulo, and the carnival that happens there? How are they different, and what do they learn from each other?
Okay, the first thing I want to say about Sao Paulo is that Sao Paulo is a huge city, and it has a lot of people from outside. I'm one of those people. Look at this. I'm here representing Honk Sao Paulo, and I'm from Argentina. So it's like it's a city that has a lot of opportunity um, to make projects, to work, to build things. And when I arrived in Sao Paulo, the Sao Paulo Carnival, it wasn't so amazing. I don't know actually when, but in a moment the Sao Paulo Carnival started to be prohibited. And then when I arrived in Sao Paulo, you didn't have so many groups that they were playing live acoustic music. You had, like these huge tracks that they put some sound and everybody's following, like with costumes and everything. that's not exactly my definition of carnival. So I'm not gonna say that that is not carnival, because I'm not the people who is gonna judge that, but I don't choose that. And what here is, maybe in other cities it's completely different, the process. In Sao Paulo, it was HONK that improved our carnival. Because the people started to, the first year we didn't have enough brass bands to start the festival. We had to invent a little bit. And but then the next year we had like 2 or 3 bands that started to rehearsal to start playing on our honk. You know, just okay, we are gonna start playing together because we are going to play at honk in the end of the year. And they started. And then after that, they wanted to play at carnival too. So suddenly, besides that, Sao Paulo had their own plan to make the biggest carnival in the whole Brazil. So they started to do things, crazy things about that. But what is interesting is that in this city, Honk helped the acoustic carnival to grow, to exist, and to expand, because it already exists here, but it didn't have so many brass, you know, and now it has. So that's very interesting, I think. For us, it's a good thing. For us to connect Carnival and Honk, it's a good thing. Maybe it has to do with the definition of carnival that you have, for example, because I could say, okay, now honk is different because honk, it has political statements. But why carnival shouldn't have political statements? Why? So it depends on the definition that you have. I think that you have a different aesthetic proposal, you know. It's very different what the same group do on a carnival parade that what they do as a show or performance in our honk festival. They think about that different, and they play different, and they choose the set list different, and everything, costume, everything you do is different in aesthetic way. That I think that is very different. It's not the same. In carnival you do other things. You want to be more spectacular in carnival, but not everybody. We have here some brass bands, for example, Fanfarra Clandestina, that they do an act on their carnival parade, and they do a statement. So it's an interesting thing to reflect, to think about. But I think that the most interesting is to understand what we are talking about when we talk about honk and when we talk about carnival. And I think that they have a lot in common.
Well, let me ask
And
a
it's
bit.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask a basic follow-up question for people who have never been to a carnival. Are you saying that the bands themselves will sponsor a parade, or is it like parades already exist that the bands then join? Do you know what I mean?
I did. I'm sorry, I couldn't follow the questions. The
So,
question.
so the parades that happen during Carnival, are they planned by one overall Carnival committee, or can any band just say, we're having a parade on Tuesday?
No, that's it. That's a huge deal, because of course we have here between our brass bands, we have brass bands that they believe that they shouldn't have to ask for the government to have a permission to play on the streets, because it's like a traditional party. It's a traditional expression and everything. It was for Eve. I'm sorry.
No, it's for anyone. Eve will be next.
Okay.
Yes.
And but here you have to ask for a permission, and in Sao Paulo you always have to fight with the big guys. If we are an acoustic, for example, in Unidos do Swing, we are an acoustic bloco or brass band that plays in the middle of the city, in the historic center of the city. So we are surrounded with like huge trucks with a lot of sound and everything, and we are trying to fight for an acoustic carnival. And in the other side you have the other people that says we shouldn't have to deal with the Sao Paulo police government to decide where we wanna play for our community. The thing that we do always, the whole year or the 3 months before the carnival. So it's a huge deal and it's very difficult. And Sao Paulo, it has a lot of increase of the group of bands that they show in carnival. They are right now, I think that they are like 800. So it's a lot. It's insane. And that's who is official. You have an official date, so you can go and you have a specific time that you have to be there and you have to follow some rules. Then you have a lot of bands that they don't do that, but it's dangerous too because you can have repression. We have groups that they had police repressão policial.
Police repression. Police repression.
Yes.
Great. And Eve, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there are both kind of formations. Like there are some parades that are organized with governmental money, sponsored by the government, like the ones that get in the official programming. And also there are bands that if they are in parade mode, like they are marching, they are walking, here in Brasilia at least, I mean, they can do that. I mean, respecting how the street goes, I mean, and the other programming, but we can do that as well. I mean, there are both kinds of formations here in Brasilia.
Great. And let's also, I want to hear about Porto Alegre, the relationship between HONK and Carnival in your city.
Great. Definitivamente, tanto o carnaval quanto o HONK são manifestações historicamente políticas.
Definitely both Carnival and HONK are historically political manifestations.
Eu acho muito importante que a gente lembre que o carnaval é uma manifestação política da população negra.
It's very important to establish that and we remember that Carnival is a political manifestation of the Black population.
Partindo desse ponto, talvez a diferença... Tá, essa pergunta, como não estava no roteiro, eu vou responder sem ter consultado os 18 membros da organização do HONK Porto Alegre.
Okay, so I will answer this question without consulting the other 18 members of the organization HONK Porto Alegre because it wasn't on the script.
Eu pensei bastante e eu acredito que o HONK, ele tem a proximidade, na verdade, o carnaval abriu todas as portas para que o HONK fosse possível.
I thought a lot and I think that the Carnival open all the doors to make honk possible.
A ocupação do espaço, a música democrática, a troca com as comunidades, tudo isso é no Brasil, né? No Brasil, é uma possibilidade que as populações negras conseguiram nos proporcionar a partir do carnaval.
Organization of the space, exchange with the community, everything is a possibility given by the Black populations to organize in carnival.
Então, nesse sentido, o honk e o carnaval, eles têm bastante em comum pelo ativismo político, sem dúvida, e pela ocupação do espaço público.
So in that sense, honk and carnival have together the political activism and the occupation of the public space.
Em Porto Alegre não tem uma cultura de carnaval, de transformar o carnaval como um atrativo turístico.
So Porto Alegre doesn't have a culture of transforming carnival into a touristic attractive.
A gente, como qualquer brasileiro, a gente tem o carnaval como um momento do ano, né? Um momento em que a gente misteriosamente se possibilita viver liberdades.
We, as all Brazilians, have the carnival as a moment in the year that we mysteriously enable ourselves to have freedom, to live freedoms.
E em Porto Alegre, eu vou contar duas histórias ou dois acontecimentos recentes da cidade de Porto Alegre, e a partir disso a gente consegue pensar um pouco melhor o que seria o carnaval em Porto Alegre.
So I will tell two stories that had happened recently in Porto Alegre, and then I will explain what is carnival in Porto Alegre.
O primeiro veio do bloco Turucutá. O bloco Turucutá em Porto Alegre é um bloco de carnaval que também é uma oficina anual de instrumentos de percussão para as pessoas que têm vontade de aprender algum instrumento de percussão ligado à estrutura da bateria da escola de samba.
So the first story is about Bloco Turucutá. Bloco Turucutá is a carnival band, but also a workshop for construction of percussion instruments.
Turucutá, em 2019, recebeu uma multa de R$10.000 por ter realizado o seu carnaval anual.
Turucutá received in 2019 a fee of R$10,000 to make their own carnival, their annual carnival.
No mesmo lugar em que semanas antes aconteceu uma corrida de carros de corrida patrocinada pela Heineken.
In the same place that a few weeks earlier, there was a Heineken patrocinated car race.
E essa corrida, além de ter sido no mesmo lugar, se estendeu por um caminho muito maior do que aquele solicitado pela Turucutá.
This race, beyond happening in the same place, extended for a way longer and larger space than the place occupied by Turucutá,
impedindo o trânsito do local por mais de 3 dias.
Forbidding or disturbing the local traffic for more than 3 days.
Essa é a primeira história.
This is the first story.
A segunda história é sobre a desapropriação de um lugar em Porto Alegre.
The second story is about disappropriation of a place in Porto Alegre,
que abrigava muitas escolas de samba ou objetos das escolas de samba, instrumentos, carros alegóricos.
That was occupied by several escolas de samba or samba schools, and were occupied also by their allegoric cars, instruments, objects.
Que foram direcionados para uma periferia de Porto Alegre muito, muito distante de qualquer atividade urbana da cidade.
Those samba schools were directed to a peripheral area of Porto Alegre, way far away from any urban activity of the city.
Então, eu acho que eu vou responder essa pergunta com uma outra pergunta.
So I will answer this question with another question.
O que diferencia o carnaval do honk?
What does make honk different than carnival, or what makes carnival different than honk?
É isso.
Exactly. I would like to, now that it's been brought up, I would like to switch gears into the political meaning of honk in Brazil and the relationship between activism and brass bands. And for anyone who doesn't know, the political situation in Brazil has some interesting parallels to the United States. They also have a fairly recent right wing president who doesn't want to deal with COVID, who, and there have been multiple situations with a former president being put into jail and a lot of political unrest. And so, this is an open question for the group is how has the honk community responded to these events? Because some bands are political, some bands are a little bit political, and some were not political before, but maybe have changed. So who can I get a volunteer to begin the discussion? I'm going to call on Eve on this one. I'll restate the question more simply. What's the relationship between activism and honk in Brazil?
Okay. I think we respond in very different ways in each city and also within each group, each band. We've seen some groups here that are more involved in marches, with acts, with occupations, in symbolic places like our federal university, and in bars, especially on the day of Lula's release from prison and the rise of protests following the death of Marielle Franco. Also, in defense of the environment and the education, especially the environment now, which is a very current topic. I don't know. I think here in Brasilia, I can point specifically a few bands such as Tropicals, who play music from Tropicalia era, songs that worked as protests for our military dictatorship era, and Maluvidas, who are very involved with women's march and issues such as sexism, violence, and safe legal abortion rights. I think in Brazil, there are a lot of bands with very specific agendas, and that's what makes our bands very different. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I think we have a long way to go towards uniting music and activism. We have to work a lot within our groups, our way to see things, our sense of community and space, our own racism, our own sexism, But I think our extreme political scenario and our fear for what's to come is unifying us. It's making this movement, this honk movement in Brazil more united. I don't know how you're dealing with everything in the US, but here we are very, very angry. Bolsonaro had one of the worst approaches to COVID crisis and has the worst approach to every other crisis, making fun of people going out without a mask, shake hands with protesters in favor of the government, which is a very weird concept for me, for protester in favor. So I don't know, we are very angry. I'm still trying to respect social distancing, but still trying to be one as a movement, And I don't know, to answer your question, I think we have a long way to go to unite music and activism, even in honk.
Great. Juba, I will throw it to you, but I also want to observe something that, in the United States, for a long time, there was a big difference between a political marching band and a community marching band. And there were some bands in the middle. But this summer, when after the killing of George Floyd by police, and as Trump was getting worse and worse and worse, we started to see bands that in the past would have never done anything political suddenly saying things have changed. And now it's like no one can afford not to be political in this moment. At least that's from my perspective in New York City. But Juba, talk to us about Rio. What's the relationship between the HONK community and activism?
Right. So this I agree with Eve. We have a very long way to with this kind of work. Normally, when we start the first honking here, and we talk about let's do a festival of activists brass band. So we thought we don't have for really 2 or 3 activists brass band to do this. So in fact, we invite all the brass band that we have that is just little, not so much like you have there in USA, and we start to talk about this activism with the brass band. So I think this kind of movement to be activists here, it's not about the what happened in 2016 or this year, but more with the HONK movement that makes some brass band that never was thinking about to do something activist, to think about to do this sometimes as they can. In fact, I think about in Brazil, the situation is that in 2016, we have that cup, and after this, all of us, we stay a lot of depression, big depression. So instead, we can do more because we were already making big protests in 2013. And we have a lot of hope that time. And so they came 2016 in that cup. So everybody stay very hopeless with what we can do if our justice is part of the crime. We have no justice. So I think we need very, very strongly a movement, international. We need help, international help to come here to finish these mafias in the power, to finish the Amazonia, burning Amazonia, and the genocide of black people on the favelas, the poor people, and the women too, and a lot of the fake news that now makes the government is there. It's totally incredible. It's we are in a situation very, very sad, and we need really help from outside from Brazil to deal with to finish this thing, because in fact we are very a little hope if the elections in the United States, if they have not more Trump, maybe it can help us here to take out this fascist movement that we have. So we are trying to do something, but also everybody is very shocked, like people now are not so strong as we were before to fight, even that we are angry, but we are sad. So it's not easy times, and we need to really be in touch and try a movement, international, and help to change the things, right? To have the human rights and something true that we can everybody see and believe, that just that a lot of fake news. I don't know if I go out so much about the question, but we hear about HONK and activism we do during the festival, we do something. Always we try to search the things that we can support. And here in Honky Hill, we also made something that maybe it's something new, different from other honks. That I think it's one of the only good things different maybe that we has to show from to you. That's the project of Attack Honk. Because we thought too that we can't just try. We started to do Attack Honk 4 years ago, and it's about we thought that we can't not just do the movement, political and social things during the honk. We need to have something during all the year. So we start to make some things that is Attack Honk. That is something like each month we take a cause to support. So we did like the anti-manicomial, anti-asylum fight, or donation of clothes to poor people. At the time it was public education, public university. At the time it was like ONGs of history and memory of Black people. So each month we invite 2 or 3 brass bands to play in a specific thing that we call Attack On. I think this kind of thing is important to be doing during the year, but we have a very big problem in our country here that we really need help international talk with this connection, right? I think is it.
Great. I mean, I think anyone living in America right now can certainly sympathize with what you're saying. It is very difficult to maintain our hope and our rage and not let it be taken over by despair. But if it helps, I know I've been to at least 2 protests against what Bolsonaro is doing in New York, and so we'll keep that up if you can protest Trump for us. So Rocio or Amanda, would you also like to comment upon the relationship between honk in your city and political activism?
I go first or you? Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, I think that I don't want to say the same things that Eve and Juba started to say, because I don't want to repeat, but it happened all of that in Sao Paulo, of course. It was so sad the moment that we saw the cap happening and we couldn't stop it. And we saw it was absolutely how do you say?
Unpunished, impugning, unpunished.
And it was sad. It was how Shuba said, depressing. And after that, it became clear that the truth, it wasn't important anymore. It wasn't about the truth. It wasn't about that. It became very clear that democracy is in danger. And when we say that, we are saying also that, for example, Marielle, she died because she found out that the son of our actual president right now, he was using money from government to build buildings in a favela for the military militia. How do you say militia? That's a good
Militia, it's
Mafia.
militia.
or militia. So it's not okay. It's a frightening moment. We had manifestations,
Protests and manifestations.
we had protests from the right wing with guns, saying that they would take power and just stop like all the left in this country. And when every week you can't believe what Bolsonaro is saying in public. I know that Trump is the same. I know. I know. Here it's a little bit more frightening because of all the guns that he has surrounding him. It's a little bit less, polite. It's a little bit less polite, but it's really frightening. And I wanted to talk too about Elon Musk, about what happened in Bolivia. The whole South American it's in danger because of millionaire, billionaire people that they are owners of the world. And for example, this week, Elon Musk said that if he wants to, he can do a cup in any country he wants. And United States has been traditionally part of this manipulation. As Argentinian, as a person that lives in Brazil, I saw that, and it's sad. And I know that you and all the people that is from this community don't believe in that. But I'm so happy that you said that you go outside and you are denouncing this killer that is right now in power, because it's very important, because it shouldn't be able to do all what they are doing right now, and because the world is not gonna survive. So as you said, it's now the moment. We cannot be neutral anymore. If anyone wanted to be neutral, it was before. Right now, it's not a possibility anymore. So start to think about that, and let's go together and denounce, protest, do everything we need to do, because we also have the power to spread the world. We also have the power to build other ways to do things, to communicate, to transform. So we need to organize. That's all.
And of course, part of what we're doing here, part of what HONK has done, is build solidarity between people across borders. So it's not like, oh, I'm an American, oh, I'm a Brazilian, oh, I'm a British person. It's, we are the people who believe in justice and freedom, and the people who are against us are those at the top. They're in the top in every country, both the billionaires and these proto-fascist leaders. So Amanda, I think it is your turn to comment upon activism and HONK.
Ok. Eu tô com medo da minha resposta se estender um pouco, então eu organizei na minha cabeça dois momentos da resposta.
I'm afraid that my answer is going to expand too much, so I organized 2 moments of in my head. I organized 2 moments of my answer.
O primeiro deles é sobre a forma como o ativismo acontece dentro da organização do HONK.
The first one is about the form in which activism happens inside of HONK organization.
A gente bateu um pouco a cabeça na parede, mas a gente entendeu que a mensagem que a gente quer passar, ela precisa, antes de qualquer coisa, acontecer entre quem está se propondo a organizar o festival.
We struggle a little bit, but then we decided that the message has to happen beyond the people that are organizing the festival.
Por isso, e pensando nesse ativismo, eu preciso agradecer não só as 18 pessoas do HONK que confiaram que eu estivesse aqui conversando com vocês, mas as comunidades que nos apoiaram e foram extremamente solidárias com o nosso vídeo.
So because of that, and thinking our activism, I have to thank not only the 18 people from HONK that are supporting and choosing me to be talking here, but also the communities that supported me and in our video.
E as mais de 30 pessoas que se apresentaram como voluntários durante o HONK 2019 e 2020 virtual.
And the more than 30 people that present themselves as volunteers in 2019 and now as in the virtual HONK.
Então, eu acredito que o primeiro ativismo que existe no HONK é essa convivência solidária, humilde, participativa, de muita escuta, que precisa acontecer dentro das organizações dos HONKs.
So I believe that the first thing that happens in activism in HONK is this solidary and humble community building activity.
Partindo disso, quando a gente conversou e conversa bastante sobre o ativismo em Porto Alegre, é inevitável que a gente pense o cenário político do país.
Going from this point, when you think the political activism in Porto Alegre, it's inevitable to think about the political atmosphere of the country.
Mas partindo por os termos práticos, né? Partindo dos termos práticos, de novo, eu vou contar duas histórias para vocês.
But in practical terms, again, I will tell you two stories.
Na saída do Bloco da Laje, no cortejo do Bloco da Laje de 2019, que acontece no final do mês de janeiro.
In the exit of Bloco da Laje, in cortejo of Bloco da Laje, that happens in the end of January.
O desfile, né? Eu entendi que o filme fala bastante o desfile, né? Do bloco de carnaval da Laje.
The parade, the show of the Bloco da Laje.
Em um grupo de quase 20 instrumentistas de sopro, éramos em apenas 2 mulheres.
In a group of 20 instrumentists of brass and woods, we were just 20. There were just 2 women.
Em maio de 2019, aconteceu o HONK de Porto Alegre.
So in May of 2019 happens Porto Alegre HONK.
E as pessoas puderam ver a Rocio tocando o seu sax soprano, a Ivy tocando o seu trompete, a Gal tocando sua flauta, e muitas mulheres tocando trombone e tuba.
And people could see Rocio playing her soprano sax, even playing her flute, Gal playing her flute, I'm sorry, Ivy's playing her trumpet, and several women playing their brass instruments.
E esse ano, em 2020, tivemos 15 mulheres nos instrumentos de sopro do Bloco da Laje.
In 2020, we have 15 women playing in the Bloco da Laje.
Então, eu quero ressaltar, e é uma pauta muito importante pessoalmente para mim, essa possibilidade apresentada para as mulheres de Porto Alegre de tocar um instrumento de sopro.
So I want to stress this possibility open of women from Porto Alegre to play a brass instrument.
Porque isso também é um ativismo.
Because this is also a form of activism.
A outra coisa que eu gostaria de dizer para vocês é que eu sinto em Porto Alegre, como eu já disse aqui antes, que o HONK, ele não acontece só em 3 ou 4 dias.
The other thing that I would like to say to you guys is that I feel in Porto Alegre that the HONK doesn't only happen in 3 to 4 days.
Nesse final de semana,
This weekend,
4 ou 5 amigos que ajudaram a construir o HONK e fazem parte de brass bands e fanfarras em Porto Alegre.
4 to 5 friends that are helping to build HONK and that take part in brass bands in Porto Alegre.
Foram por Areal da Baronesa tocar para as crianças pelo Dia das Crianças.
They went to Areal da Baronesa to play for the children in the Children's Day.
O Areal da Baronesa é uma daquelas comunidades que a gente mostrou nos vídeos.
The Riel from Baronesa is one of those communities that we shown in the video.
Então, para Porto Alegre, pelo menos, a gente acredita, ou a gente teve essa experiência de criar uma relação com diferentes camadas sociais que antes não era tão ativa ou tão participativa como aconteceu a partir do HONK.
So in the case of Porto Alegre, we believe that we're creating a relationship between different social groups or social stressors that are different than before HONK.
Então, é óbvio que a gente está muito preocupado com a situação política atual e não podia ser diferente.
It's obvious that we're extremely preoccupied with the political situation now, and it couldn't be different.
Mas a gente está construindo ainda um caminho para, quem sabe, atividades maiores que atinjam mais pessoas futuramente.
But we are stepping away for, we are building a way for other activities that are going to be bigger, that can happen in the future.
Então, para a gente, o nosso ativismo, ele é para além dos dias do HONK, mas ele é um espírito que precisa acontecer durante o ano.
So our activism is a spirit that happens to happen during the year, throughout the year.
E somos extremamente gratos a toda a generosidade das pessoas que nos receberam nas comunidades e que se propuseram a construir esse festival junto com a gente.
And we are extremely grateful for the people that hosted us in their communities and helped to build this festival with them.
E é isso.
It's that.
Great. So we are approaching our last 10 minutes, and we're getting a lot of questions from the audience. I know we won't be able to get to all of them, but I'd like to ask a few of them and see if we can get just maybe one person to take on each of them. Because they're unscripted, if you don't feel like answering, you may pass. But Eve, we'll begin with you. Someone asks that in Brazil, there are already so many bands that are made up all of women. I'm thinking of Damas de Ferro and your band, and that the leadership in the committees, the HONK committees, there are a lot of women, and we see that even here today. So what would you like to have any comment about this?
Yeah, sure. I think that so I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about some things here. A lot changed with the coming of HONK and the beginning of new bands. I mean, new bands began to pop up with intention to play with intention of playing HONK. You know, music teachers discovered a new niche of people wanting to learn music to play on street bands. More people started learning how to read, write, and arrange music, and more women started playing brass and woodwind instruments, and started gathering with other female members to start their own bands. This happened in the coming of movement of HONK movement, I think, because we started to see more women playing. And whenever we start seeing more women playing, whenever we start to see references, we start knowing that we can do this. You know, if she can play this, I can play as well. You know, this is what I think is happening. If they can, if these girls can be on the center of a HONK festival in Brasilia, or whenever in Porto Alegre, in São Paulo, in Rio, we can do too. You know, we can play instruments. We can start learning instruments, and especially we can start arranging and writing music. And this is what, I mean, Maluvidas, and all of the women that I think Rocio, Amanda, and all of the women that are like influences on other female musicians are advocating for. You know, I think this is what we want the most, to encourage girls to play instruments, to start their own bands, to make their own things, to make their own music. And to, I mean, I want to help answer this question telling a story as well, just like Amanda. I remember that a highlight of last year's Honk was the final jam session that we had, was an all-female jam session. And I mean, last year's Honk Brasilia was the first one to have 4 all-women bands in the lineup in Brazil, I guess. And even with that, I mean, during the jam sessions, there were still women being disrespected. You know, like being told not to play now, or do not play this song. We don't want to play this song. We don't want you to start. So we worked collective and decided, it was organically, it happened organically, but we decided that the final jam would be an all women jam. And it was really exciting. It was amazing. Women who were ashamed to play on jams started improvising solos. So it was crazy. It was a highlight. So this is what it's about, you know, women playing more music and improvising solos. This is what makes me like very excited for the movement.
Yeah, I think people who were around for the beginning of Honk back in 2006, 2007, a lot of these issues came up in those jam sessions as well, that they ended up being sort of dominated by the same sort of, you know, white male energy every time. But in recent years, we've seen also seen an explosion of all-female brass bands. Just off the top of my head, Brass Queens, Filthy Femcore, Clamor and Lace, Yes Ma'am, and then we have the Queens of Honk, which is an ad hoc group. So here's another question from the audience, and it's a complex one, so I'll let Xiao also translate it, and if one person wants to answer it, go for it. So this comes from our friend in the audience, and so there's from Leandro. So there's a growing trend in new brass bands and blocos with surprise presentations in the streets, like flash mobs, as opposed to the old-fashioned carnival blocos, which have a full year connection to their territories and they engage in the community. But as activist groups, what do we think about this new trend of what they call deterritorialized carnival?
Ok, tem uma tendência crescente nas bandas de sopro para fazer apresentações surpresas em ruas, como se fossem flash mobs. Por outro lado, os antiquados blocos de carnaval têm conexão durante todo o ano com os seus territórios e engajam as comunidades fazendo suas festas. Como grupos de ativistas, o que vocês pensam dessa tendência de desterritorialização do carnaval?
It's hard in every language. So this unfortunately has to be a short answer. Who wants to give it a try?
I think that that is something to be aware of, you know. It's something that you should always think about. Which places are you activating with your sound and with your art? And if you are doing that, you know, you cannot just arrive like an outsider and start just from nowhere. You have to be talking with the community. You have to be involved in the community. It's better if a lot of people from the community is participating to you start to change things when you involve. So I believe that it's not necessarily like that, but I understand what he's talking about, and it's something that we should be aware of, reflecting about that. And that's all.
Great. It's 5 till. The next panel is coming on soon. I think we want to give a big thanks to everyone who's working behind the scenes, to Lindsay for running our tech, for everyone in the HONK United Committee for putting all this together, for Charlot, who asked all of you to be here, to Zhao for doing a great job translating, and of course for all of you for being here. Let's give everyone a round of applause.
Yes! Come on!
Yeah,
Come on!
thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carmen.
Come
Thank
on!
you, Phil, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Wow.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, people from the
Bye.
US, thank you